we went up to the top of a mountain. There was a lake there, and they were cleaning octopus, small octopus, for you to eat. But I didn't try it, no. But I never have forgotten how it looked as they were cleaning it. That was the first time I'd ever seen that.
I've had cold octopus
salad.
salad.
We were down on the seashore. I still want to say Balmoral. I can't. Anyway, there was a German ship that came into port, and Mike and Bill took Mike, and they got to go on board, and they gave him German chocolate and some other stuff, but it was, quite an experience for a little boy to get to go on the big ship, and it was German.
I know when my sister and I were little, we got to go on my dad's submarine, but I don't remember a darn thing about it. I don't even remember going up to the sub. I mean, I have a vague image of what it looked like, but it's probably mostly from pictures.
Yeah.
And ask my sister, she could probably tell you every detail about it. My sister has a memory like a steel trap. I just don't.
I wouldn't want, too close to claustrophobia for me to go on.
My dad was a sonar and radar tech. He was in that little...
And he was in Pearl Harbor when it got attacked.
Oh, wow.
Frank was my mother's brother.
Yeah, your uncle.
He was, I want to say that he was on the USS Maryland, but I'm not quite for sure if that's right or not, if it was that ship or not. But thankfully, I don't think that ship got blown up. And I never did get to really talk to him, He lived in California. But Don and I got to see him when we came back from Hawaii. We stopped and spent a night and a day, I think, before we flew on to Atlanta. And bless his heart, he passed away not long after that. He had to have an operation, and he died on the operating table. I was so glad we got to see him. He was just like Mother. He would call Don long distance and tell him a joke. He always had jokes. He never forgot one. He and Don both would have them going back and forth like crazy. He loved a good joke.
You got any stories about Big Mama?
Big Mama?
Yeah, you got any stories?
Let me see if I can remember him. Well, I remember that she said when she was a young girl when she was carrying me. She was only about 19, I think, or 18. And of all things, she craved vinegar. She said that she lived out in the country. She went over the hill all by herself and drank a whole cup of vinegar. And do you know that I used to, when I was young, I could take a glass of vinegar and just turn it up and drink it. And I still love salty, sour things like that, like a dill pickle, that's salty, and I love them.
Dill pickles, I love balsamic vinegar. I don't like just regular white vinegar. I like flavored vinegars, but I don't think I drink them plain. I'll put them on my salad with some olive oil, but I don't think I'm going to drink it plain.
I could drink it just plain, but Mother, I remember when I was young, my mother and father they worked in a movie theater. She sold tickets and he worked up in the where the projection room was, I guess. I must have been very small. They worked for two people that were their friends, Loretta and Dink was his nickname. And they'd put me in the show, and sit me down in front. And I can remember Dink would roll up a newspaper and swap me and tell me to go sit down. But that's all I remember about that. Also, later on, my father owned a tailor shop, and they kept the loose chain. This is the only time in my life I ever stole anything. But he kept all the loose change in a cigar box. Now, why I did it, I must have been about 5 years old. I stole that money. I do not know to this day what I did with it. I might have given it away. Who knows? I took that money. I don't think I ever told them either. But I remember I'd go out in the country to see my grandmother and grandfather on my father's side, riding in a wagon. And my grandfather had this big round circle, and it was a brick, and then in the middle there was a little round cylinder thing, and from it extended a long pole, and that pole would extend on the outside, and you'd put a donkey or a horse or a mule on it, and it would go around, and it would crush the sugar cane.
Okay.
And he would take the sugar cane and make syrup. Best syrup. It looked like honey. It was golden. It was the best stuff. Also, he had cotton fields. Now, I was about 5 years old. My grandmother made me a toe sack. That was a sack that the people then, when they picked the cotton, you put it, I think you put it on your shoulder or around your neck. You pulled it anyway. It was a long sack, and you pulled it, and when you took the cotton bowl, you'd put it in there. Well, she made me one, and I would go pick cotton. And then Granddaddy had the wagon. You'd take the cotton up when you got it filled up, and he'd weigh it, and he'd pay you for it. And he paid me, too. I made some pennies.
Yeah, I've heard that picking cotton is really hard work, especially on your hands and your back.
It really would be. It really would be. Of course, that's all I remember. And I'm sure I just played at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows how much I picked? Maybe two or three. A little bit.
Don't those the cotton bulbs? Don't they have like little picks at the end of them where you pull it out from?
Yeah. You don't see. I don't know. I guess they still have. Who grows cotton anymore?
Well, somebody's got it.
It's bound to be someplace.
In Georgia, they grow it.
Who?
In Georgia?
Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, down south.
It grows wild in Florida. There's places around my dad's house that it grows wild.
There used to be a cotton field there. Then it grows wild.
Possibly.
It's just come back.
Yeah.
Somebody evidently had at one time a cotton field there, but I don't know really of. I haven't seen a cotton field in years and years.
Mike went to college in Georgia, and he said he saw cotton fields in Georgia.
Over there.
Yeah.
They're bound to have them because we have cotton products.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen any in a long time.
Have you ever heard of, or have you ever watched a movie called Places in the Heart?
Of what, honey?
Places in the Heart.
Uh-uh.
I think you might like it. It's got Sally Field in it. She's the main character. And then it's got Danny Glover, who's a good actor, and John Malkovich. I don't know if you know him or not. He plays a lot of really quirky characters, but he's kind of calm in this movie. Yeah. And it's basically about a lady in, like, I don't know if she's in Oklahoma or what, one of those drier states where they still do a lot of farming. And her husband's, and this is back in 20s or 30s or something like that, but anyways, and her husband's like the local law. And they go out to get this kid who's found somebody's liquor and gun, and he's drunk, shooting in the air at in the tracks. And by sheer accident and bad luck, by trying to get this guy to come in, her husband is shot and killed.
Oh.
And so she's got all this land now, and she's got 2 young kids, and she's got to try to bring a crop in by herself and make her mortgage payment and still have enough left for the following year. And it's about all the hard times and the hardships and whatnot, but how basically people end up binding themselves together and overcoming obstacles and creating a new family. So it's a lot of it's real heart-wrenching and like, oh my goodness, but in the end it's all like, ta-da, love conquers all,
Yeah.
That's where I learned. It's a fictional thing, obviously. That's where I learned a little bit about picking cotton, because that's what they decided to grow.
Yeah.
It's cotton, and it's just the way they portray that. I'm like, oh my God, that's got to be one of the hardest things in the world to do.
Imagine. You want to look at that sweeper for me and see if it's the batteries on that thing?
Yeah. Real quick question.
Okay.
Were you talking about your stepfather with the grandparents and everything? Your adopted father?
No.
Or
I was talking about my real grandfather.
Okay. I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no. I had a wonderful stepfather, though.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Now, he had Daddy, my stepfather, he had a mother that was still living, and Granny Waller, that's what we called her, because that was his last name was Waller. She was character, Jason. I tell you, when she was in her 80s, she was living with Aunt Lizzie. And there were
Who's Aunt Lizzie? I don't know who.
You don't know anything about this family, see. But Aunt Lizzie was Daddy's sister.
Okay.
I called him Daddy now. And Aunt Granny was living with her. Well, there were about 26 miles from Tyler. There's a town called Jacksonville. And they had some really good doctors down there. It was a small town, though. Well, Granny decided that she needed to go see the doctor, and she really didn't. And Lizzie wouldn't take her. So while Aunt Lizzie was doing something else, she called a cab, and she ran away from home. She went and got on the train, a little jitney train, and went down to Jacksonville. And Bill and I were in Jacksonville. That's where his parents lived and where he used to live. And we were down at the end of the street, and I told Bill, I said, isn't that Granny Waller getting off of that train? And it was. Lizzie didn't have any idea where she was. She was a character. She decided, one time she was staying with the older daughter, Aunt Hattie Lou, yeah. And she decided that she needed to go to the hospital. Well, it cost all of the kids, every time she went to the hospital, it cost them money. You know, They didn't have insurance to put her. So, but she really didn't need to go, but she decided they didn't like her and she needed to go. Well, she got herself so sick they had to put her in the hospital. Oh, she was something else. And they didn't dare tell a joke in front of her, because she wouldn't understand it, but she would remember it and she would repeat it to anybody. They had to be careful to sit around her. Let me see if that's just